In my recent film, The House Ghost, I used a lot of VFX techniques, things like object removal and green screen keying. It was definitely challenging, but also super fun to figure out while working on the project. Today, I want to break down a few shots from that film. By the end of this video, you will see how I made objects fly, how this toast is floating, and how I removed the camera from a reflection shot. There are tons of tutorials on YouTube that show you how to remove a green screen or erase something from a shot. But in real life, things almost never go as perfectly as in those tutorials. So this won't be a step-by-step guide. Instead, I'll share what actually works in real production, what to expect, what can go wrong, and how to deal with it. Alright, let's get into it. This shot looks pretty complex, but it's actually very simple to make. And it doesn't start with filming, it starts with planning. I had this wide shot of me cooking a pasta, and I already knew I wanted cutlery flying around. So when filming, I left as much empty space as possible to add those objects later. Then I filmed the cutlery separately in front of a green screen. I did a few variations, adding small movements and rotation, so the movement of the object will be physically correct. After that, I brought everything into After Effects. I removed the green screen using key light. It works really well, but to clean it up even more, I added advanced peel suppressor and key cleaner. Then I animated each object so they don't just freeze in the air. In the foreground I had this lamp, and I wanted the frying pan to interact with it to make the shot feel more complex. I masked the lamp and used the Luma key to keep the reflections while making the darker parts transparent. Then I added some distortion effects to the frying pan as it passes behind it. A mix of CC glass, bulge and blur worked best for the realistic results. How do I know what results are realistic? I filmed a reference shot with objects behind the lamp before doing the editing. That helped a lot. So yeah, plan first, then shoot. If your planning is weak, editing becomes complicated. For this shot with the flying light, I used wires. Pretty common trick in movies. After Effects even has something called simple wire removal. So I thought, simple. They even named the effect after this. It wasn't simple. For the wide shot, it actually worked fine. This effect blends pixels nearby to blend the wire with the environment. With some adjustments and animation, I could hide the fishing line here. But the close-up shot was a different story. The wires were in front of moving elements. My hand, the bag, the lens. And since the wire was out of focus, it looked thicker on screen, which made things worse. So I had to combine multiple techniques. First, I removed the wire in static areas using Photoshop. Content-aware fill works really well on still images. Then I went back to After Effects and used simple wire removal for the rest of the footage. Some parts like the bag looked okay, but my hand was completely broken. So I kept the bag part and continued from there. I also tried the content-aware fill in After Effects. You've probably seen tutorials where it looks amazing. In real life, not so much. The texture often looks messy or inconsistent. Still, it can help in certain areas, so it's always worth trying. As the final brush up, I didn't have any other choice but cleaning up the rest of the image, frame by frame, with a clone stamp. And finally I got a clean shot. So what I've learned here, there is almost never a magic tool that fixes everything easily. You just combine different techniques and slowly build your result. This one is a mix of green screen and object removal that we covered a few minutes ago. Here is how it looked straight out of the camera. I attached this pole to the toast. The outer part was hidden with a gem so you don't see it. In After Effects, I started by masking out the green pole using key light. Most of the shot was easy to fix, because the background is static. You can't just replace it in Photoshop. But this part where I moved behind the pole was tricky. Content aware didn't work. Again. So I had to use a still frame of my body and animate it to reconstruct my short. If you go frame by frame here, you can still see it's not perfect. The proper way would have been to film the same movement without the toast and mash it later. But I didn't do that. So yeah, better planning would save me a lot of time here. Learn from my mistakes. I've always loved those shots where you see a reflection but somehow the camera isn't there. If the camera is moving, it's really hard to do. But if it's static, it's much easier. While shooting, I knew I'd need to remove a camera later, so I made it look as small as possible in the frame. I mounted it on a C-stand instead of a tripod, so I only had a small area to fix. But that setup made the footage a bit shaky, so first I stabilized it. Then I removed the camera in Photoshop. After that, I rotoscoped myself to bring everything back together. The reflection and the foreground are actually two separate takes, one with the ghost and one without. If you know how to mask two different parts of the images together, you can figure out what has been done here. Before we finish, go check out the house ghost if you haven't seen it yet. You'll recognize a lot of shots from this breakdown. Thanks for watching till the end. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments below, I'll reply. And see you when my next big work comes out. Bye!